And we are here. Welcome back to a new episode of the Repaint Reality Manifestation Podcast. It has been a second, and we have Rose here with us today.
I'm really excited. I'm like emotional excited. I didn't expect that. Like I knew I was gonna get emotional today, but I'm very excited, like just at the beginning.
Good.
Yeah.
Why?
I think we have talked about this several times, but whenever I first met you, you were the first person in the metaphysical community that I really connected to immediately. And I remember coming home to my mom and being like, there's this girl and she does all these wonderful things with not only like spirituality, but she does these amazing like marketing themes and artistic themes, and I can just really see us being like a really great connection down the road. And like I started to listen to your podcast, I started to looking at your materials, like not trying to overly obsess, but also just like this is a really cool person that I could see building a relationship with. And it kind of was like a manifestation of my own for like you to have like a mentorship with me. And I think it's a friendship, but it's also like a mentorship in many ways. And so it's just like really exciting.
It has been fun. It's been fun getting to see everything that, like, all of your stair steps, especially in this town, because you showed up and no one even, I think, realized that you weren't here the whole time because of how much of an impact you've made in the Hot Springs area and the creative swirls and in the spiritual community too, like all three,
Thank you.
which is
Yeah.
like the perfect little like trio. It's like Hot Springs, spirituality, creativity.
It's amazing. I love this town. I don't think I meet a person without telling them how much I love this town. So it's been a really great place to grow and build just such a supportive community. So I'm really thankful.
Yeah, I'm grateful that you came over here and showed up.
Just blew in from the Texas winds.
So, yeah, blew in from the Texas winds. Something I like to kind of go over on this podcast, especially with new guests, anytime, since it's Repaint Reality Manifestation Podcast, is especially asking what does like manifestation mean to you, whether that
Yeah.
be a definition or a feeling, like what does it mean when I say that word to you?
Man, that's a question I've never thought about, but I think manifestation for me is lining out your dreams, identifying them, and realizing that they're achievable. And then acknowledging them once they are achieved. And I think that's like a really significant part of manifestation for me. Is the tangible. My Virgo self loves the tangible aspect of things. So
I could hold this moment.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so important for me to write down my manifestations or my reflections, because so often I get caught up in like the life things, and but when I can look back and say, oh my gosh, no, I wrote down I want Karina to mentor me, and we're here, a year later, and have this relationship. So yeah.
It's crazy how, if you guys even look back at like a year ago, literally a year ago from right here, the place that we're in right now, we went to lunch over at one of our favorite spots, Cafe Calo. And I was like, there's this spot, it has a for rent sign. It's been going on. I'd love for, I'll just show it to you. And then we like walked in front of the window together. And then there was someone out here. He's like, hey, you want the phone number for the contact to reach out and get in here? And we're like, yeah, love that. And suddenly we're now in here a year later, like after a year of being here, which we're looking at leaving, moving again, always moving, shifting again. But it is cool to see how that like stair stepped.
It is, yeah. Because I that same moment came to whenever I saw your post about reaching the goal to get here. It was like, whoa, that's been a year. I can't believe we just stumbled in. Someone let us in to look at it, and we were both artisty, like, oh yeah, you could do this, this, and this. Jasper
This
could
could be
go here.
yeah, when he's just in the belly at that point, we're like, we'll put the baby in the shop. We'll just do the shop and a baby.
And you've done it.
Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been so crazy. I have learned so much. I have learned so many vulnerabilities, so many surrenders, being able to slow down and like hang out with this small guy who's like crawling out of your arms as we speak. He's on an adventure always.
Thea loves it though.
Oh, yeah. Something that's been focused on recently, I know that I've been really leaning in on action. Um, One of the new things has been magic in the action. Manifestation playbook was something I had been working on, and now that's out there. But something with that action piece, with manifestation, that I realized a lot of people always like talked about with manifesting. And the reason I like to ask, like, what does it mean to you? And I like that you complete it with like, I like the tangibility that you can show
Yeah.
up with, is because how many people are like, wow, it's just fantastical thinking and sitting there and like visualizing it enough and then suddenly like getting the ding that it showed up. When really like that is like the first step, yeah, writing it down.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
is cool when you can see it come into tangibility and then you look at that writing. The other night I looked back on a little paper notebook that I found and two things that were on that paper of the three things. I forgot what the third was. But it stood out to me because one was the downtown gallery and then the other was a van or SUV that could fit a 48 by 60-inch canvas inside of it. And I just recently got a van that can fit. Like, I remember we were looking at vehicles. I was like, it needs to fit a canvas. And I lifted that thing up. I was like, you could fit a baby and a 48-inch canvas in
Those
here
are artist goals right there.
at the same time. It's amazing. But seeing it on that piece of paper where you're like, wow, like that's real. Like I wrote it down as a hope one day, but everything in between
Yeah.
that piece of paper when I wrote it down and now driving it around. And sometimes the headache that comes with those realities, that is part of managing it. Like there's so much tangibility.
Yeah.
But then there's also that blessing when you're like, but I said I wanted it and I did it. But then sometimes I think even that want changes once you
Mm.
reach to a certain point. So, how have you felt about the action part of things? Like, how do you like to go into your action state from your goal? I can take him again if he's getting too.
You want to squirm to mama?
I want that microphone.
Yeah.
I said, it's my turn. Hi,
There we
baby.
go.
And so, yeah, how do you feel about setting up your action? And do you feel like you ever have wants shift as you get there?
Yeah, I think that one of the most interesting things when I look back and reflect is having a manifestation or a goal and having it come through completely different than I expected it or would have planned it. You know, when I started manifesting or dreaming or processing when I got to hot springs, I think I was very much like, first, I want stability. I want this. I want that. I want that. And I think for me, a lot of times I would have put community or friendships on the bottom, not because I don't value them, but because I knew they'd be a big time investment and I didn't understand the value that it would have in my growth. But whereas, Spirit, the divine, God, Mother Earth, whatever, came in and said, no, 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 this is your community. They're going to surround you. They're going to pick you up. You're going to meet these people unexpectedly. And those are going to be the paths to what you unlock everything else. I would have never expected. So, I've come to like try to surrender to that piece. It's not easy for me. But I definitely do my best to be like, okay, I let go and I allow the unexpected to come through without trying to hold on to it. And one of my favorite phrases that I probably came across on TikTok is when I'm manifesting something or dreaming of something is if not this, then better.
This or something better.
Yeah.
I love the phrase, this or something better.
Yeah.
It's
Maybe
a
you told
juicy
yeah. Yeah.
statement. Well, and even right now, we'll share some transparency here. I just the whole being a solo entrepreneur thing has been it's been so fun and I'm so done with the season. And I said it once before, I try to leave a previous location for that same reason. Um, and I just think I'm realizing it again. But I also needed, I think, to scratch the downtown spot itch. But with that, the transition instead is actually leaning back into community again. And I think I put on a pedestal the idea of being in a solo, like gallery space. So cool in theory. And then you get into the practice of it. And I'm happier every time that I'm with somebody
Mm-hmm.
hanging out, whenever I get to share like moments with him, with people. And so realizing that that community shift has come up, that's the pivot, is going back in with community again. And I don't think I like, and at first it sounded like that would be a cool idea to do all this alone. But the community has been the richest part of all of this. And I think that has been a big shift in the past few years.
That's the special thing about your location that I love, when I'm over here or when I do pop in or anything like that, is like we've talked about this before. This is your little neighborhood, the other business owners come and see each other, local small people come, small town owners, small town living, we come see each other and you just feel like I can sit outside and I can have a coffee. I can go grab my coffee from upstairs. I can have someone hold the baby. Like it's just it's a special atmosphere that I'm not sure, I don't know if you would have experienced at the other location. I wasn't as familiar. But getting that special feel, I don't know, it has been a cool part, and I'm glad that you got that connection, experience, and reflection.
Me too. And I'm glad that it's not done. I mean, we're still going to be just like upstairs, still community, still, but with more community,
Yeah.
more of that. And that's what I like about whenever you get to have a taste of something and you realize, like, okay, I now learned more of what I value, I think
Mm,
is a big one.
it's a mirror point.
Do I value this? Is this the idea of what I wanted, or do I love this on a value level?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that has been, it's just come up so much is that the community is one of the richest moments. It's moments with people, moments where you slow down and you just get to have that little like hug. And not even a physical hug always. Sometimes it's an emotional, like mental hug of just like, hey, I see you right now.
Yeah.
And so something I realized with you and community, the people that have come around for your light and love art workshops. And I know you're doing like 10 million other things as well. But those specifically, I've seen a lot of people start to express that they've had like that safe space to open up, to create, to have certain processes in their creation. How
Yeah.
have you felt about the community style of light and love artwork? And do you want to share a little bit about like what that even is?
Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up. So art, light and love art was really kind of like my my method of teaching that I wanted to enter with. And it was fueled, which I think is why it builds community so well. And it came from my own place of vulnerability. So, it's honestly a concept I developed myself. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist out there, but my intention behind it is very personal. And so I found community at Tula Yoga, our local yoga studio. And it was unexpected in a way that it just welcomed me wholeheartedly. I've had many vulnerable moments there, and at a place where I didn't feel most comfortable in my body, I felt safe, and it's very important as a feminine being to have those spaces with other feminine beings. And so it gave me that safe refuge to be able to process, what do I want community to look like? And it's really where I acknowledge community was so important. And so I fell in love with the meditation aspect of yoga, as well as like just the slow down and listen to your body part of yoga. And in meditation, I would just get this like instant flares of like creativity and inspiration and excitement. And when I got those flares, I was like, how can I create this with other people? Because I want to just explode with creativity right now. And I don't care what it looks like. I think as an artist, or someone who even feels brave enough to take on that title as an artist, because there's so many creative people who will not take on the title of an artist.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, we have that imposter syndrome. It's just like, even when people have asked me about my personal art, I say, oh, this is what I do with my personal art, but this is what I teach. There's two separate pieces of that. And so I wanted to like bring that in. I think it's lost
It's
us.
okay.
But also bring in the aspect of, community and feeling safe, and how the safeness of this space inspired my creativity or allowed it. And then it became deconstructing, okay, well, art doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a
Mm-hmm,
final piece. I
mm-hmm.
can go back anytime. Was a large, how can I just get that like instant creation and kind of like break down the concepts of what art is and what I feel it should be. Like, I feel art should be a safe space to express. I feel community should be a safe space to express. I want those things to mirror each other, which is not a perspective I've thought about until this moment. Now that I think about it, um, so I really started to look at places that I felt safe. And when I met people working at the restaurant that were, I work at a restaurant in town, that were also, new to the area, didn't have community, were post COVID, very isolated, tired of technology. And I just wanted to say, I do these things, you do these things, let's do these things together. Like, I wanted to do them together, and I wanted people to understand that they weren't alone in these things. And so, yeah, it's
Yeah.
really exciting. Oh, he sees himself.
This is my camera.
Sorry. So whenever I realized those pieces and just those like the exciting things, and again, I think it comes in small moments. It wasn't like this just flooded me instantly. It was like sitting with it and realizing that they're building on each other. I just wanted other people to know that they can feel safe and they can feel safe with other people. They can feel safe in community. They can feel safe in bars even when they're sober.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing for me. I don't drink a lot and it's not for any other reason than I have learned the hard way I'm not supposed to drink on one of my medications. So I limit my drinking.
Slow down.
So, I take care of myself in that way, and but I respect people's journeys in that, and I want people to feel safe in environments that they want to socialize with. And sometimes you want an adult only environment, but you don't want to feel like you have to drink.
Yeah.
And that's important to me. So it's important. I think that whenever I put out the love and light art classes and I do this story adventure, which is a form of meditation, but I try not to freak people out with that. I
Why do you say freak people out? What's going on in this that freaks them out? Is it just
I'm
too
from
deep?
West Texas. I think
Okay.
it's just the stigma of what meditation is, which again, it's just a guided
Huh.
story. Yeah, I don't know.
See, the cards, I hear a lot of reaction from, like, divination and even the crystals sometimes. But I don't think I've heard yet with meditation. But
Oh,
it makes sense. It's all in the same bucket, the same
it
wheelhouse.
is. And I think it comes depending on what environment you come from, and I came from a very um strict environment in those senses. And so you know, things that people don't understand can immediately become scary to people. And
Yeah.
so I just say, this is a meditation. You don't have to take it as that. You don't have to close your eyes. We don't have to be completely so focused. You can even work while you do it. I don't mind. You can take it as a meditation or you can take it as a story. And either way, there's nothing crazy going in it, but your brain, just like in any art form, if you accept it, takes it and subtly processes things underneath. So my stories are subtly constructed to allow you to emotionally process things. Now, my biggest fear when I first did it was, would there be any significant negative emotional release? And we
Okay.
had this conversation a couple times that
Yeah.
I was worried about. But I really haven't had that experience. It's all been positive. Now I will feel the heavy, but it won't come out as a negative reaction from anyone
I'm about
else.
to say, I think that room to have creativity, because I feel better in my own little artist world when I get in like I have a painting over here in progress that is literally the result of, I always say it's like certain manias almost, it feels like, but there's somewhere to put it. It's
Mhm.
like all of those feelings get so dramatic in the emotions, and it's like, and I call it like lay on the floor, stare at the ceiling energy. And it's probably the healthiest way to take that energy is either that or like creativity. Because the other things that you can do is be like, I want to go out into the world and like take my life, throw it in a dumpster fire, and see what happens if I start over from the beginning. But when you have trauma or pain or things, just conflict come up, it's easy to be like, okay, but instead, when you have something like painting or a canvas or a group of people, if that does come up and you have outlets right there, I feel like you have that dramaticism, that emotion that can just go somewhere.
Yeah. I think one of the things that allowed me to explore this aspect before I really launched it was when we first met, and I think we did my very first reading with you. We talked about channeled writing.
Did you
Yes.
get to do it?
Yes. So that's what led me into channeled painting, which then led me into meditation work.
So, for you guys to know what channeled writing is, in case you haven't been able to play with it yet, the idea is that you'll start just writing, and you can set an intention, but you just want to at least start. And then you're opening the door for channeled writing, which is why you can set the intention. It's nice if you can say, like, here's what I'm holding space for. But then you start to pay attention to when that, like, handwriting almost shifts, when it looks like it's not yours. Did you see where there was a point where it started to shift?
Yes, and even when I go
Okay.
back in journals, I can see, okay, this is not quite how I would say something in my typical verse or how I would write in my typical writing. So that's very interesting. Yeah. And then I seen like other divination people that do the scribbles. You ever channeled scribbles? So they let their pen flow while they're channeling
Similar to
auditorially.
it makes me even think of like light language,
Mm.
where Becca Hartness, if y'all know
Oh,
Becca, you gotta know Becca. We gotta have her on the podcast
yeah, that
actually.
would be a good one.
She's also someone that loves the that expression where you kind of like turn off the part of the brain that's articulating and specificity and like with a clear picture in mind, but it's just flowing and getting all those different symbols out is what it looks like. She has drawings that get specific too, but it comes from that like space of turning. I feel like it's like turning off the brain and turning on the channel.
Hmm.
When you got ready for the paintings versus the writing, was there a difference in how you approached that?
I think I became
Want to come back over, Bubs?
more centered intentionally on tapping into. I think when I first started the paintings, that I had a vision in mind. Like I had either looked at the picture or really sat with the emotion.
Okay.
And that was quite different rather than in channeled writing. I feel like I can flow into it quicker. I feel like there's not that artistic pressure that I'm creating this piece, that I want to be final,
Oh.
because I know my journals are my journals. There are a few times that I have to worry about them being seen and without being asked. Does that taste yummy?
Who want pink hair?
But so
But
I
you
think
kind of
that's
have more of that like space where if it's shown, it's not because you were trying to commercially create something that was
right.
like,
I think it's again going back to that artist pressure of like I'm creating a piece, which is why I think I like. So my meditation based art, the light and love art classes, they're more like collage oriented, multimedia. I don't use any type of fancy papers, fancy materials. It's more. It's not. It can be a final product, but it doesn't have to be a final product. So it takes off that pressure, I think, is the exciting part. So I always tell my students, like, this doesn't have to be your masterpiece. This is going to be inspire you for your masterpiece. And so I think that's
do you find that your art, when you approach it more like ready to make a piece, if you will, does that shift now that you've done so many channeled pieces?
yes, it has
Okay.
changed completely. My art has changed completely. I feel like right now I'm creating the most I probably ever created since childhood.
I love that
Me
phrase.
too.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. Even whenever I don't finish pieces, I feel better about not finishing pieces or coming back to them. And getting inspired by my students. That's a big thing. I think,
Oh yeah.
yeah, there was one piece that really made me realize that my teaching was changing my art style. And so I teach the Light and Love art classes for adults and all ages. But I also teach at Emergent Arts, and I do a lot of things there. But one of the things that I do is after school programs. And I did an exercise with one of my kiddos. I think it was a story adventure light and love class, and one of my students was going to use this feather on a certain piece to like accentuate like the eyes in the piece, and they decided, well, they didn't want to use it anymore. And I thought, okay, well, that's fine. Well, I was working on this bird piece that randomly the bottom I just could see this eye in, and so I used that feather that she was going to use to under like define the eye.
Ooh.
And so it just made it an eye instead of being a piece of the bird. And
Did you get
that
to show her?
I did. And she was like, oh my gosh. Like she absolutely loved it. And what's even been greater is the next semester that I had her, she was from my very first semester teaching. I only had 3 kids that semester. Now last semester I had like 15 total. We had done it differently, but probably taught about 15 kids. I had her that next semester, and her confidence shift was insanely different. And it made me feel just like, okay, I think I'm on the right path.
How much was she doing other things that were really relevant on her confidence at that point, or do you think there's certain permission within the art process that just gave her permission within life?
I think it was the permission. I also tell people I'm a Bob Ross style teacher. I'm hardly going to criticize. I don't think I do criticize a piece. I might say, okay, that's not appropriate, or,
Yeah.
things like that, especially with children. But I'm going to say, this is how you get it better, not better. This is how you get the effect that you want. This is how you go for what you're looking for. And I think that freedom, and even my hard part with her in the beginning would be that she would start a piece, and she's in a preteen age group, and there's a lot of confidence things that go on with young girls at that point, and she would start a piece and then she would be like, okay, this just isn't good. Instant
Mm.
criticizing,
Hmm.
and wouldn't get through a piece and wouldn't want to come back to it either. And I would allow her to do that in many senses, but there would also be times where I would hold the piece back. I would say, okay, I know you don't like it. I'm going to put it to the side for me. And I think the next semester, when she knew it didn't have to be perfect, and I wasn't doing that only to her because we had a lot more students in that next session, um, she had that freedom to be like, okay, if I want to focus on a piece or if I want to come back to piece, I can. And if I just don't like that piece and it wasn't a part of exploration that I enjoyed, it's okay. I can throw it away. And that was a fun thing that I got to do.
There's a fluidity to it.
Yeah.
A fluidity in like choice, fluidity in I think that like idea of what it can be versus what can become.
Mm-hmm.
Just getting to explore and create. And so it's nice to see that she got to have like that pivot too, of especially permission when it comes to like this doesn't have to be perfect. You're just creating.
Yeah.
And that mirrors life. It's like it doesn't have to be perfect. You're just creating.
Yeah. And I think I mirrored a lot of what I was going through at the time, and that helped me a lot to realize that I need to let myself do that as an artist or as a teacher
Hmm.
so that I can allow other people to do that. And even if I go to the studio right now, there's probably about 7 pieces that I'm working on there that I haven't finished, and probably about 7 at home the same way, you know? But I know that I can come back or I cannot.
Oh, you're gonna jump? That's a jump.
I'm getting tired.
Since I didn't get to say nothing on this whole podcast episode.
What do you think, Jasper?
Oh no.
You know what the
Well, is there any other bits that you're also wanting to share in with things that you've got going on, projects that you have coming up?
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I have a hard time keeping up on my own projects. People
Yeah,
remind
you're doing so many things. I will look up, I'll be like, look at the college. There's this class being, taught. And I'll be like, oh, and there's Rose's name, right? There's the teacher. And then immersion arts. And, you're like, so whether it's the college, the bar, the children's like nonprofit for education, you're at all of it.
Yeah, but I think it's the kind of lifestyle I need to keep me from getting bored. That was the big thing. I know it seems very sporadic and it might not make a lot of logical sense to people, but I enjoy it. I really do. And I just noticed your boots. They're fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. But I think, also the big point for me, I think, has become taking on the pride of my name. You
Mm.
know, signing my name on those promotions, making sure people know that I'm doing these things, that my name's attached to it. And yes, I attach my brand to a lot of things too. The everydaisies, just saying. But yeah. But my I realized the weight of people do want to associate with me and things, and that was a hard thing for me to accept at first. Not, I think, a self-worth piece, yeah, but it was like I didn't want to be perceived as arrogant. I didn't want to be perceived as selfish, or as, like, these negative connotations that sometimes I thought I was going to receive.
That's
But
paired with like growing reputation or being known.
yeah, but one thing that I think broke it open for me was there's a video skit of Maya Angelou in an interview, and she's talking about humility versus modesty.
What'd she say?
So she's basically saying, and it's a great skit. You should look it up on YouTube. You could find it pretty easily. But she's saying, like, modesty, whenever you're modest about what you do and things like that, it can fall apart. Modesty falls apart. It's not really a true, authentic expression. Now, when you're humble about something, when you're going and you're saying like, okay, I did this thing and I'm proud of it, but I recognize these other pieces of things, kind of is how I took it. That is more powerful. Give yourself the recognition, but also acknowledge that, there are other things, there are other pieces. But to just discount yourself, I think also for me to learn is allowing other people to discount you.
Well, and then also, are they discounting themselves if they see you doing all these amazing things that they're like, wow, I like am inspired by this, especially, or like I'm having new aspirations because I witnessed this as an example of an option.
Yeah.
And then if they do decide to pursue it and you take modesty to a direction of like self-deprecation, like some people can go in that route, then is it telling the person that's inspired, like, oh, but if you like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you
Yes.
grow and have, popularity for this thing that you put energy and effort and work behind,
Yeah.
you then have to downplay it and make yourself smaller in order to fit in spaces. Like,
It's
no, that
true.
doesn't feel right.
No, it doesn't. And it's 111 on the clock. I don't know. I'm just an angel number person, so that was a good one. But so I think that's where I started to recognize, because like, when people first started to recognize me in the community, I'm very active on the social media here. And I didn't realize how much courage it would take for people to say, "Hey, I recognize you from Facebook," right? Introduce myself while I'm waiting tables, and they'd be like, "Oh, are you such and such Rose? You do," and I'd be like, "Oh yeah," or "Oh, that might be me," or like I'm like, "Oh yeah, it could be me. I don't know. What post are you talking about?"
Which Rose?
Yeah, I'm like, good. So when I realized that they were seeking that opportunity for connection, and that if I, and I don't think this was like an external realization, I think I just had to come to that self love and self pride. But they were seeking that connection too. And they were seeking to see if the authenticity I present on Facebook or Instagram
If it was
is,
accessible in real life.
yeah, is that a real thing? Is this just a facade? Is this another influencer, And when I learned to take pride and use it as, oh yeah, another connection point, but I also still want to learn about you. I want to know about, I connect with many of my customers from the restaurants, have become customers for my business because I connect with them. And that connection, I think a lot of people are seeking right now. And so I stopped discounting that. But yeah, I mean, so I am at the college doing multiple classes there, some of the light and love, which are the meditation based art, and then the oil painting beginners class, which is, I'm so excited because oil painting is my preferred medium, but I've never taught an oil painting class, so this will be a still life class, and I'm really excited on that. I've got an upcoming fashion show. Yes. Yeah, you gonna be in the fashion show?
You
And
could be, Bubs.
I think so. Um, yeah. And that's going to be a collaborative event for Hot Springs. Yeah, we're going to have all kinds of, he's excited. All kinds of artists. Yeah. So that'll be really good. And let's see. Emergent Arts, I've got lots of things going through them, including a fashion club, art cafe, after school program, mom and me, or parent and me class. It doesn't have to just be me, mom and me. It could even be
Aunts,
yeah,
uncle,
aunts,
yeah.
yeah. It could be anyone. I take your little. It's more geared during the day for people or kids that are under 5, or some homeschool students, if you would like. Um, and I think the other thing is, I think I'm seeing some big manifestation unlock in the other parts of my life that I'm really excited about. Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Tell me all about it. And I think one of the I think one of the things, so we originally planned this episode following a intentional event
Yeah.
for Lionsgate for a manifestation, and it didn't go through just because it didn't go through. Things just don't go through sometimes. And I think that if I was someone who attached a lot of self-value, which
Mm.
I have been in the past, to people not showing up for that event or things like that, instead of being like, "Oh my gosh, there was 4 other beautiful events in town. People were going back to school. People were being conscious of money.
Yep.
It's the end of summer. Rather than placing that, I would have put things differently. But I think that before Lionsgate 88, I put a lot of pressure to the point of paralysis. Pressure to the point of paralysis. Yeah, I know. And so now that 8-8 has came and gone, and I think I'm allowing myself to see that the energy is ramping back up, and it didn't have to be contingent, but there's also some great unexpected unfoldings that are going to pivot things, and I think that's a really powerful thing, and I get this feeling that it's going to happen because of the fact that basically, like, I got this feeling right before the week of 8/8. I was getting like, and I'm still kind of having it, like intense anxiety, very like nervous, very like worried that it's not going to pan out, and like self-worth doubts, just like really just scratching my head. And I do this. People might not see it, but I am like, am I doing it right or am I doing it wrong?
I'm
And
always like, and what am I even doing? Am I even doing this?
is do I need to just go the safe route? You're like, am I doing it? And I think, when I posted about canceling the 8/8 event, I did have some self-hurt in it. But it wasn't projected or mean or anything like that. But I had some really powerful people reach out to me and be like, "Hey, I support you. Like, I support you. I'm gonna purchase a ticket to your next event," and like go through and do it,
Hmm.
but or like just check in and not even say anything about canceling it. But I know that's why they checked in. And that was a really powerful affirmation. But getting those strong intenses of anxiety and self-worth and stuff like that, it's the craziest thing. But I have now realized, and I told my dad that when I feel like everything's just about to fall apart, I think something big's actually coming. Like, I think it's the best place to realize that, oh my gosh, no, there's parts of me falling away that I just have to see for a little bit because it's about to get even better.
I think in a tarot, we always call it that tower energy,
Yes.
where it's like, okay, whatever you're holding on to, this structure, and a lot of that is represented in like ideals or concepts or like what ifs and what I should be capable of. And when it starts to crumble, you get just so much more room and space.
Yeah.
But what's nice about if you can put out events and make it as lavish, as small, as medium, any scale that you choose, and if it doesn't mean anything about you, what the response of it is, but it's just the next step, then you get to put out that many more.
Yeah.
Because if you're like, okay, this one wasn't it wasn't the time and place, but since it doesn't mean anything about me, I can now go create the next one bigger or the next one that's smaller or 10 more or 2 more, depending on what's next and
Yeah.
what is craved. Versus if it means something about you,
Yeah. You can't.
it can spiral. Like you can have it as a moment where you hold and you say, why does it mean something about me? What
Mhm.
am I learning? And it sounds like you took that direction and you pivoted into like, okay, no, I think something bigger is blossoming.
Yeah.
But some people, if it spirals, it can turn into, and I've seen it with some people that I love, where it's like, oh, well, then I guess I'm just not meant to do this.
And it's easy to
And then it
have that moment.
stops. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything just stops. There is no next spaghetti piece thrown at the wall, or the bigger event that like killed it, or the smaller event that was someone's like most treasured memory.
Yeah, and I think that's really what I value about my classes is the intimacy. I don't have huge classes. None of my classes, I don't think I've ever taught a class bigger than 15 at a time, which is comfortable for me because it's a lot of energy. I'm very hands-on. I want to encourage you. I want to help you. But I also want you to have engagement from others. More often than not, I would say my classes have 7 or less people
Hmm.
you know and I'm one of those people. Unless I have significant collaborators or significant expenses, I will not cancel an event if it's less than. I really won't. I'll do same day. I'll still show up. I'll still unpack my things. I will leave having no one showed up for me. I will, because not in a no one showed up for the class, but I take it as it's what I needed that day. It's what this one person needed that day. It's what those 3 people needed that day. On 8/8, I ended up going to the lake, and I needed a lake day. I didn't know I needed a lake day, but I needed a lake day.
And you got that
And I got a
time.
lake day at Washita, and that was beautiful, with family that I really didn't get to know before. And so like that was a very powerful thing. And so I think it's a wonderful thing to just take things as what they are or what they need to be without attaching your value to it, which just takes the it takes some intense work beforehand. It does. It's not easy.
Especially if you want to create and hold space from a place of passion,
Yeah.
because it means that you're invested emotionally,
Yeah.
creatively, time,
Yeah.
financially.
And knowing that self-worth is important to know that whenever there are people who show up, who yes show up for you, but they're going to continuously cross boundaries or you
Mm,
push those people pleasing behaviors on yourself. You have to be in a place with your own self-worth to say, all right, okay, yeah, I'm here to do this, I'm here to do this, but there's a point at which I'm not here. There's a point at which I have to say, all right, I'll get back to you whenever I have time.
I love that you love all of this. I love that you love this time with me, but I only like I have things I've got to do. For me now it's a baby. But like,
Yeah.
there's just other things that you got to do to
Yeah.
take care of, like you got to eat at some point even.
Mm.
My goodness,
Mm.
fitting that in sometimes is a whole task of its own.
Yeah, yeah, I'm the same way. So, um, I don't know. I think those are the main points. Um, I will say one of my favorite parts of our friendships is watching you being a mom. I value my parent friends significantly, but like to watch you be a parent and do all the things you do. I'm talking about I came in one day, 10 a.m., you got a baby strapped to you, you're doing beads. I'm talking about a newborn baby too. And I'm like rolling with my coffee around noon, like and you're painting and strapped to you with the baby. I'm like, whoa, I can do this, because
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big point for me, is I didn't know motherhood was an option that I wanted because I had very large caregiver roles in my family. And then I had a miscarriage in 2024. And that was the point that woke me up from everything. Honestly, I think that changed my complete view of my self-worth. I think I always say that my children were my greatest blessing to me. I have no, yes, I have somber emotions about the loss of them, but I don't really feel that it was a loss. And, but I really honor their experience and what it woke me up to. It shifted my life. And so to then be awake to the fact, okay, I think I want motherhood. What does motherhood look like as someone who loves to be busy, who loves to create, who struggles with boundaries? What is
That's a
that?
long story, long narrative. You can be a mother or you could be a businesswoman.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid you do both. And
Mm.
especially, it's almost like you could be an artist or you could be a businesswoman or you could be a mother. Like they
Yeah.
don't even put any of those in the same category
No.
sometimes.
No, so it's a powerful thing. And I think that I'm very blessed to be in the town that we are in because I get to see very modern mothers and parents who are embracing their children into artist life and,
Yeah.
and the safety of that and the community of that and the inspiration of that. And so I definitely respect that you're not the only one in this town doing that, but you are someone who I got to see from the very beginning, do that, throughout the
What does that look
process.
like when you're pregnant doing that and with a newborn and doing that? No, that's it's a good space to be able to see. We in the we refer it to as like expanders in the manifestation world for like the terminology where if you see something and you're like, oh, that's an option, like I thought it wasn't until I saw this,
Mm-hmm.
it now expanded my possibilities because I
Yeah.
realized this is in the real world. This is like a choice and an option. Hi.
You tired? You
Yes.
ready for us
Yes,
to
I
wrap
had
it
one
up?
nap today.
All right.
And I hate naps whenever things are going on because you can miss something.
It's quite exciting.
But I think I had a few expanders with children. I thought I didn't want a kid for a long time because of, I don't know, I just thought I wasn't capable. And, or just so many fears. There's actually a whole past life regression I went through about child loss from a past life
Mm-hmm.
that finally got me to realize why I had such deep phobias about having a child. Which is probably a whole entire another story for another time. But whenever I did that past life regression, it was with a lady named Margaret, and I remember afterwards there was such a there was a peace. There was some of the fear got taken away. I realized I did want to have this little light, this little baby boy here, and it was it was a big shift. But then it was seeing people. Also, I have my good friend Mickey Rose. She's a reader. She had a shop metaphysical connection with her mom here, and it was the very first time I was doing henna. like outside of college full time. Before that, I had done it like part time. But she had her daughter with her. And so her daughter would be at the shop with us every day. And it was the first time I witnessed someone that had their kiddo in a shop. I was right there beside them. So I got to see the reality of like, hey, sometimes you just got to pause and not take appointments and like handle your kiddo for a second. And sometimes the kiddo is now learning how to run the register. I remember someone would come up to check out and she'd be like, wait for me. I want to do it. And she's there learning math skills and things like that, like in the moment. And then before you know it, she's creating. And that's what I've learned about like kids of entrepreneurs. And I will especially will reference it with festival kids. But you get these like crafty little like puzzle solving kids running around that are suddenly like, oh, this is how this works. I could do that too. But until you see it,
And to have a safe environment for that, because I was always that kid. I didn't really fit in where I was planted at the time, I feel like. I feel that I got a lot of, like I kind of self-taught in those aspects and I didn't really have the outlet for it. Um so I really enjoy being able to see those aspects and I see those kids flourish because sometimes you are more attached to something that you see yourself in. Like there's a my one of my new favorite places to go is like Monarca Con Sabor, and it's like a Mexican restaurant that does like snacks and stuff at the edge of town. And my favorite thing was, oh, she's setting up the walker. Oh, yes. Um, my favorite thing was going in there and seeing the young, confident, fashion expressive, preteen girl running the register and speak in Spanish and English. And so, like, that's
mm,
a big thing for me as a Mexican American is realizing the connects and disconnects that I experience in my culture and, like, also being able to see people embrace it fully. And so to see that in a girl so young and embrace those things confidently with her family and have that safe space and then also see their other two young uh, one young and one teenage girl embrace the same thing in a culture like what we're experiencing right now is just blows me away. So I think that when I it's easier to see to appreciate the healing going on when you recognize that it's a part of you that you wish you would have healed younger.
hmm I think self forgiveness is nice whenever
Yeah.
you realize, though, that you're like, man, I wish I would have learned this lesson sooner, or I would have healed this faster, or any of that. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay, the timeline it takes to have that aha finally click.
Yeah, and I'm someone I have to I'm kind of stubborn. I have to learn the hard way, but also, I mean, I think I'm supposed to learn through experiences. I'm supposed to relate in that sense, but being in the right environment or with the right community also makes just a huge difference. Going back to that, circling back to that is just a huge thing.
Seeing other people's self permission sometimes grants a little bit more self permission.
Yeah.
And seeing out of the box lifestyles that somehow fit into their own world
Yeah.
makes it easier than to say, like, how can I collage together my own pieces from out of the box into what becomes my
Yeah.
cozy fit?
Yeah, because I think I grew up in a not very financially stable home environment, so it made me seek stability and safety and also get a lot of pressure from family for me to seek that stability. And what did stability look like? A stability looked like a 9 to 5 job and a higher education, but not too high of an education because why would you get a master's degree if you already have a bachelor's degree? You know, which I do have a master's degree. I am one of 6% of Latinas in the US and it was 4% back then.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I did not know those were the statistics.
Yeah, I did not know until I graduated. And so, yeah, I mean, it's easy to think that that has to be the stability, but to be in, again, just changing your environment. A lot of the young girls that I work with at the restaurant or people I meet in general, I tell them I have started my life over so many times. And not one time, as bad as things got, as hard as things got, do I regret starting my life over.
Mm.
So finding the right environment, and for me, it's hot springs. Do I know that I will always be in hot springs? I don't know. Do I know that I'm definitely going to travel outside of hot springs? I think that for sure. But I love my environment because there are so many small business owners that show a flexible lifestyle that hustle. I mean, we're talking about all types of small business owners here also have second, third jobs, have their kids at the store, have their, that made me be like, this is a life that I could make stable. It might be dynamic, but it's stable.
It has a lot of variety,
Yeah.
but there's the stability in variety even.
And I think that that allows room to enjoy life, to let people realize that life should be dynamic. It does not have to be stagnant. It does not have to be, you should not enjoy a day based on the day of a week.
Mm.
You know, Tuesdays has become one of my favorite days because it's one of my most successful event days because no one does anything on a Tuesday.
I love that. Nothing happens on a Tuesday. Back when Mickey and her daughter were here, I took her daughter out on Mondays. Like we would get into the shop, we'd open up, and I'd have to usually run a few errands. And we call it Monday Fun Day
Yeah.
because she was homeschooled. And so I would be able to be like, okay, let's go by, Michael's and get some craft supplies. And then we would go to like one fun spot, whether it be like lunch or ice cream or something like that. And we'd call it Monday Fun Day because I was like, we're gonna rewire the energy of Monday. And so we would just find one random fun thing to do on Mondays together. And I like that where it's like, you know what? Let's just shift up because for some people even the weekdays are the normal weekdays. For us in our world it's a little different. It's like, what do I want to build on the weekdays? Because weekends in my world especially, I don't know, I'm not sure how much with what I know with your classes you're now leaning in a lot more on the weekdays.
Yeah.
But with like the henna, especially for me, like weekends are really, really, so
Yeah.
it's like weekends are my weekdays.
Yeah, and that's because I've often served to balance everything.
Yeah, so
Serving
with the
weekends you
serving, weekends
can't.
are the life. That is where you like, that's the work.
Everyone's like, "Oh, are you enjoying your weekend?" And I'm like, "This is not. I'll be resting on Monday while you're at work."
Yeah, Monday is still my like crash day. I do my radio station show, and I haven't showed up to my show in a while. I think that's the one thing that I've dropped the ball on. I was like keeping the shop up, the nonprofits that I'm involved in. I don't know what else I could list right now. I'm sure there's other things, including like, but all of it revolves around like my child. And so then I was like, Monday morning after the whole weekend, I used to be able to have space for that. And now I'm like, Monday morning comes and I'm like, oh, you want a mid morning nap right now? I guess we're staying home and relaxing on our one day of rest.
But you deserve that because even look, we know I'm not a morning person and I'm not great at time management. So, like, even when you've invited me to be with you on your show in the beginning, I was like,
No one
look,
wants to come to my show.
it's Monday morning. I'm resting. Like, I love you, but see you at noon.
It sounds so cool. When you do, I'm like Monday at 8 a.m. They're like, oh, I'm asleep. And I'm like, yeah, everyone is. I have one friend that every time I am doing the show and I post about it, she reaches out to me and she goes, I love listening to this on Monday mornings. Like, it is my vibe music to start my week. And I'm like, me and you.
Hey, at least they're out there. They're out there.
Yep.
It makes you feel better whenever you get that. One thing that I've enjoyed doing is I've started writing affirmations from other people on in my journals. So
That's nice.
yes, because I am one of the worst people about you'll compliment me and I'll be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And I will still have my own narratives in my head. So I sit down and if there's something that really struck me, I'll write it down that night so I can go back and just look at it another time because I just it makes it more tangible.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I also love compliments.
I love them and they really help me, especially I didn't realize how much I'm proud of you has hit me until I've become in this recent freeze of my life. But I think I think it's that modesty piece that I struggle with. That I was just like, oh, you're just saying that to say that, and I have to do this or I have to stay small and do this instead of being like, no, I deserved that compliment and that person really means it. They took their energy to say that and it probably took some vulnerability because sometimes people say some extremely kind things to me, which I appreciate and I do want to validate. And so they took that time and they took that energy and they meant that. And so I should honor that a little bit more than just letting myself destroy myself at night because I didn't accept that
It's like, was it
compliment.
true or was it this or did I respond right? I used to, yeah. I love giving compliments. I'm not
Me
always as
too.
good at getting compliments. That is sometimes the harder part, and I had to realize to work on that after a while, especially turning up the volume on having just things that are like available to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think I have one last
All
thing, and
right,
then
one more thing, you guys.
one last. I'm so sorry. I'm a talker. I need this one.
No, it's good. We're not even going crazy. Yeah,
No,
an
no, we're
hour's
not an
healthy.
hour yet. Okay. The last piece, and like this is the vulnerable piece, like because we've talked about well, a vulnerable piece is that the fact that like I've been exploring like the aspect of like Casi Algo lately. And so Casi Algo, which I just recently learned because we're both Mexican American, but like
I'm a bad Mexican, you
no, we
guys.
both are because like we're intergenerational. Like this is like a generational. Like my family's been in the States just as long as your family. You know, like my family's fourth generation Mexican American, but they lived in Texas. You know, so like it was just a different thing. So like my Spanish is terrible. You know, there are some things that are traditionally Mexican that I don't enjoy. You know, but whatever. You know, like I'm trying to lean into the parts of my culture that I do enjoy, and also wearing that as a representation with what's going on. Just because I think it's portrayed on me more here than I experienced in Texas.
Mm.
Which it is what it is.
People notice. I had some the other day, it was like 2 days ago, someone looks at Jasper really long and they go, what ethnicity is he? What ethnicity are you guys?
And we're sisters when we go out.
Yeah.
And we definitely get spoken Spanish more when we're together. It's when we're separate.
Like, oh, it's two
There's two
girls
of
in
you in
one screen.
Arkansas.
You must be saying what's crazy is I do have a sister named Rose. Not you,
Yeah.
but I do have one.
Yeah. So it's different. I'm not used to it. I'm trying to understand, not, I'm just trying to navigate it better. But I've always been, even in Texas, I want to understand my heritage and connect with the pieces that I resonate with, and what I don't. And so one of the biggest things for me in that is the fact, I do that with many cultures too, but like, I just want to understand some pieces. But back to Casiago. So Casiago is what I realized is twin flames.
Well, okay.
Yes. So I did not know it's Spanish version of twin flames. And so I've seen this on my Instagram a little bit. There's a podcaster that started talking about it. So something came across my feed this morning. And we've had discussions about, romantic journeys and what I'd like that to look like. But again, spirit no, I knew my community and I needed myself and I need everything else first. And I have no doubt that there's an alignment in the future, but I really just had a recent confrontation with my Casiago. And so, like, I didn't realize that's what it was, but it was just a mirror point. And I think that moments that trigger you for reminding you of how you've healed over
Mm.
the duration of relationships, of friendships, of life experiences are very significant. I think that those mirror points are good points to have. I can be someone who, if I didn't like a past version of myself or a past thing I did, I might pretend that version of me never existed. I might pretend that that person that I interacted with never existed. I might just completely disconnect from a situation rather than sit there and sit there and confront like what's going on. And so like I recently had like a re-experience with like a Casialgo, like a former ex relationship, and it reminded me of just like how far I've come in my healing journey, because I could recognize that the way that I was presenting myself was different. It was more
Mm.
authentic. It had a lot less shame around expressing my needs, expressing my boundaries, expressing my time for myself.
It's almost like the idea of what someone might expect, what you think they would expect from you, or would allow them to like hold more space for you almost,
Yeah.
versus you just being like, this is me.
Yeah. And also I realized that I had discounted this person because I had not really fully got to know them before because of the way that I was projecting my experiences onto them. The way that I thought they were, rather than actually having the conversations, because it was a shield. And so it was a really great reflection point. It's one of those things that I don't think we'll ever be friends. We'll never be, I don't think we'll ever be long-term romantic partners. And that's kind of like what the settling on this Casiago point is there's that they're you're always going to have love for them, but you may not ever be in love with them. They may not ever be in love with you. But it woke me up, and I don't know how they took the experience. It woke me up to how much I had grown, because I didn't realize, even since our last interaction a year ago, or even since we first were together 4 years ago, how much the way I viewed myself, the way that I expressed myself and my true self, not this whatever version I thought people wanted me to be, or what I thought they were and needed from me because of that, affected how they treat me, affected how, they really did, want to respect my boundaries. They really did want to respect the way I expressed my feelings. They really did want to be proud of me.
Hmm.
But I wasn't allowing them to do so because I wasn't showing up as myself.
And so then what's left to connect on or to build that dynamic on or
Hmm. Yeah, so that was a really powerful mirror point that I just wanted to talk about, because, I do have a hard time whenever past versions of myself are triggered internally, whether it be from a person I've just met or a person who's known me for a long time. But that was a point that I was really proud of, in that whole, whoa, I can tell I've grown. And I can tell they've grown in a lot of ways too. It just didn't match, and that's
yeah.
okay. That's okay. But it reminded me of, this is the place where things are fitting in my life.
I like that. I like it when you can have that moment too to be like, okay, let's like pat on the back. Like I am proud of this response this time.
Yes, because the prior dynamics got bit in the butt a lot quicker this time. I got to recognize them a lot clearer because I wasn't gaslighting myself.
So what I like about unconditional, when I always say the phrase like unconditional love with
Yes.
forgiveness, is like true unconditional love is not like the idea of like what we could be or all these. It's like, no, you are here being you, I'm here being me. We can love that, and it doesn't mean that we have to then like, I'm not going to mold you into what would be convenient for me. I'm not going to mold me into what I think you would want from me. Like I'm going to like see you as you. I'm going to love me as me. It's unconditional, which means maybe our realities don't always like match up in the way that we want to be like side by side in a lifestyle. Like that
Mm-hmm.
may be a true reality, but I can love you at a distance. I can see you being who you are. I can love that for you and be over here loving what I am constructing as my life for me.
And I think that's a really hard point, I think, for a lot of people to understand. I don't know why. For me, I do think I do my best to unconditionally love people. I will unconditionally love a stranger until you tell me not to. Until they indicate not to. You know what I mean? Like I really I love, and whenever life gets centered about only romantic love, I think that's where it gets crazy. I think that's where it gets easy to be like, okay, those parts can't exist. But I very much have love for this person, but they and I just will never be at the point to be in that type of love. And that's okay, because I can love someone and not have to have anything else for them but say, okay, I love you and I wish you the best. And that's,
Hmm.
for
A
both of
full,
us.
complete experience in that
Yes.
way.
Yeah, I think that's a great experience to say, I wish you the best. I can't connect to you anymore. I can't talk to you. I can't see you. I can't do anything, but I have love for you, and I want nothing bad for you.
It's a powerful place.
It is, yeah. And that includes ex friendships and
Yeah.
all of the things of that nature.
There's even family members that have done some wild, gnarly things where I'm like, I want nothing to do with you anymore. But I still, like, I don't wish you ill or unwell. Like, I I want space. I have love for you and what we had in our past and memories. And I just don't want you to have access to do like some of the gnarly things again, possibly.
Yeah, I think people discount the multi-dimensional feelings. You know, you can feel this and feel this, or you can feel half of this or not. You know, like it doesn't have to be like a whole consuming experience. Again, yeah, I have family. I care for you. I love you. We don't really need to have a relationship though, because you
Yeah.
don't want one. You know what I mean? You
Not with
don't.
me,
No.
maybe an idea of me, but if it's not with me, then I'm out here living my life.
Yeah, because again, I mean, honestly, I love rocks. You know, so like, I love, and so I have that kind of love that I know I
Yeah.
don't have to. It doesn't have to be conditional. It doesn't have to be contingent because I think it just took that self-worth piece. And I know people get so tired of like that beating. I did whenever I was hearing it all the time. Oh, self-worth, self-worth, self-worth.
But until you find what it means, because it can mean so many things, and it seems like an idea that you just slap on until you're like, no, it's really like it's carving space for myself, despite what it means to other people, and caring for other people, but still carving space for me in a balance for how I care for other people too. Because we are in a world that's so collaborative and mixed in with others. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're here solo. We're born into families, or we're adopted into families, or we have communities between school or workplaces. We are just inevitably within circles of communities. And with that comes everyone's idea of what's right and wrong when we're put into those communities. And
Mm-hmm.
some of it we take and you're like, yeah, it fits. I'll like go with this for life. But with that right or wrong, you get just that self-value, self-worth, especially if depending on parents or teachers in the beginning. It's like, especially school, it gets so easy to be like, you're worth, you're good if you're, on top of your grades.
Yeah.
You're bad if you made an F. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, I failed.
One of those things that helped me release relationships was hearing it's a repeated phrase. I heard it on a podcast that I like from Jay Shetty, but it repeated from someone else and I don't know the original person, but there are people who come into your life for a reason, a season, and a lifetime. And once you identify where those people sit, it makes it a lot easier for you to release those relationships that no longer serve you.
Yeah. Like, thank you for that moment. Thank you for that lesson. And here's our distance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that used to be the hardest thing for me, losing friendships, because I love friends like family. And when I'd lose friendships, it would just tear me up and I'd go try to seek them out again and I would just it just tore me up. And then I heard that and I was like, "You know what? This is what I've learned from that person. Doesn't mean they can't come back in my life in a different form, in a different way. Or maybe they were just there for that moment, you know? Or I know there are people, I have people. I feel like you are definitely one of those people that, and there are other people too that I have lifetime people, you know? And I'm grateful for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's harder than those breakups, though. I had my first friend breakup, I think, in the first time since like high school, recently.
Oh.
And I didn't even know what to do with it. I was like, it's like, I didn't even know we did these things anymore. I thought we just stopped talking if this was the scenario. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't know until I was in it. And I was like, I didn't know what to do with it. And I think I spent 2 days not knowing what to do with it. And I would go home and I'd be like, this isn't a big deal, but it's taking up space in my mind. Like,
Yeah.
why can't I just take this information and move on? Like, what? And then I had to go into, what does it mean? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
does it mean to me? Like, what is the reason that it's taking up space? Because the reason, like, if you can't just move on from something, there's a reason it's
Yeah.
hanging out and continuing to echo.
It's triggering something.
Yeah. And so I had to go through and explore all of that and figure out, and I think it impacted some of those feelings of being like too much. Because the phrase of like, well, you're a business owner, and I'm like, and so it was one of those where that phrasing even, I realized it hit on those spaces of, because in our world as business owners, you're like, yeah, so I'm crazy
You're like, I have no idea what I'm doing
and
actually.
trying my best every day until I try a new way. And like, that's all it is. Like, I don't know. And so, and you're sitting there, and in that conversation, what I reflected back on, I realized I actively tried to make myself smaller, like verbally justifying ways that I wasn't, making myself smaller, be like, but no, I just do, and then afterwards I thought about it. I'm like, that's what it triggered in me so hard was I want community. I felt like I was finally starting to find community, especially bonding on like a mom level and being like in my mom era, if you will, and I was like, I'm mom mode, and in that moment, I think after I sat with it and I grieved the part of me that's not just I go to the library, I go to places and I realize I am not just a stay-at-home mom. I signed up to, be full-time caregiver of my child. Like so I am his primary.
Yeah.
But there's a certain mentality or phrasing sometimes behind those phrases, those words of like stay-at-home mom and what that means versus the working mom. And I've watched literal comment fights before of people being like what who has the harder job, and I sit there looking like, what about those of us that just bring our kids with us to the work? I don't know where we even fit.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, stop trying to fit any of it. Like, you're not going to fit for everyone. You're just not.
Yeah.
Don't make yourself smaller.
Yeah, because then you're not allowing the right people to show up for you. You're discounting yourself. And I had that identity thing is a real thing, and I lived my life. I feel like I'm a very dynamic person. I think, and I would live my life trying to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink, and I still would not be small enough for anyone. I was never digestible for
Ugh.
people.
And it doesn't even feel good when you look at it in
It
hindsight. Say it
doesn't.
like whenever I say it out loud, or when you say it, it's like it doesn't feel like that's the goal even either. It's like what? Why was I fighting so hard to shrink myself for
And
who?
one of the big things that I've started to connect is the way I look at people and they look right here. I can just see a lot. The way they just look right here. So when I do the same thing in pictures, and when I look at myself during those periods of time, and I just look at right there, and I just feel like, oh my God, I just look dead inside. Like I just really like I that I think is my newest phase of life is no longer shrinking. No longer hiding the fact that I'm a waitress who has a master's degree. No longer hiding the fact that I do all of these ventures and the fact that I have multiple other not great traumas that have happened to me. Not that I'm going to be someone who just flaunts it because there's such thing as just being like, okay, like you're kind of like that's the hard part is people think sometimes you're attention grabbing for those things. But no, I want to be
Even that, if they think that, I don't know. Like,
I know, but
so
I
I'm
want
like,
to be relatable. I want to have conversations with people and be like, okay, this part of my life came up recently and it relates to what you're going through. And so I want you to hear this story or this part of me. Or this will give you more context about myself so you can understand me better. I'm not bragging. I'm not trying to get pity. I'm just trying to show you who I'm actually am. And if you want to take my stories however you want to take them, that's on you. And if you remove yourself from my energy or if you create negativity in my energy, you don't belong here. In my energy.
and that's yeah, in that moment, it was hard.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's what
not
I was
easy.
like, all these things I said, because when I was told what it meant, I was like, when I said this, it didn't mean that. I didn't even think that it would be taken that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I realized after a while, because I kept trying to reconstruct how could I have said it? I was like, you just are who you are, and you've been who you are for a while now. Like, you stopped turning down the volume for a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to go back to it. Like, what do you want? Like, do you want to mold yourself for a friendship that is now a molded version of you that you're never going to be fully yourself because you're always going to wonder if you said something that pung the wrong way, and and I just am who I am. That's what I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do all my things even more again. I'll go
Yeah.
back to my podcast more. I'll go back to just being louder about things because I think for a season I did want to kind of, and I needed to get smaller for a second for me. Like
Yeah.
I needed to not be so expanded everywhere because I wanted to be with Jasper more, and I'm still with him, but there was a capacity for how much I could expand the idea of me with the creations and the marketing and the promotions and the being accessible through all of the media platforms versus paintings. And I was like in that smaller season. And so I realized I did make that friend like in that season. And then as I was starting to, I think, breathe back into this again.
I know the type of friendship you're talking about. I had that when I first got here.
And so it's like but with you, and then with most people in my life, and I still like, I have like, once
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
unconditional love for this
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
Like,
Of
I
course,
want the
yeah.
best for them. But like with you and with my mom or with people that are like close, I'm like, I want people close that have constant access to being in my ear, in a way that I value, to be able to accept me as I breathe. The way that
Yeah.
when I was smaller, you would send out a thing checking in while I was smaller, and be like, hey, I haven't heard from you or seen your things in a bit, just making sure you're okay.
Yeah. Those things matter.
And so it's like, when I'm smaller, it's okay. But right now, I'm in that breath of getting bigger. Here you are on the podcast, hanging out in the bigger moment,
Love
and
it.
that's where it's like, have, there's just breadth
Yeah.
to public creation
Yeah.
and public accessibility.
And first of all, you deserve every right to conserve energy when you conserve energy. And I'm grateful for friends who recognize that, whatever that means, even if it's for creating a whole human life. I want to stand on the fact that's a huge thing.
Yeah, well, that's why I think like my breath was going in a different direction. Like I was expanding in a different direction of life.
Kind of.
Having a baby, holding space for like caring for him, especially in the newborn
Oh
stage.
my gosh, you're a saint. But he laughed. Did you? But I mean, I am building the relationships and the friendships that support me in the life that I need. And so I tell people, even if it's strangers, I'm telling you what I need to hear in the future. It might not be now. I'm telling you what I need to hear, because I believe in reciprocal relationships. And so, like, I don't, it's just very important. And I want friends who I don't have to shrink myself around.
Yeah.
And I can say, I am really killing it in business this month. And then I can come back to you in 2 days and I can say, oh my gosh, things have just fallen apart and I think I'm going to cry.
And both are safe. The wins are safe. The oh my gosh, is that even real is safe. And then the man, I'm grieving this is safe.
Because I would say I've had more people in my life like this and close people than I have in the other phase until now. Where if I was in a losing phase, it was almost a good thing for people.
Mm.
You know?
Well, and there's a lot of that, what do you call it, like trauma. Well, not even just the trauma bonds, but the
Yeah.
the who has it hardest struggle, like the story of like who's struggling the most. And then when you are struggling, it's like that's the connection, the bond point, or
Yeah.
they
Well,
know how to care for you
yeah.
when you're down.
I almost felt like it was like oh, I'm glad you finally fell.
Oh, good, you got to learn reality.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good. That wasn't as good as it looked like for you, And that's where it just gets hard, But I'm glad that I have safer people that I can be like, I need to cry or get a break or get a hug. And, also these people just, now that I've created them, they just show up at the right point. That's the beautiful thing about hot springs. You just bump into someone, you're like, oh my gosh, I did not know I needed your hug today, but I'm so glad you're here.
It's like the other night, you guys walked by the haunted tour booth, and I was like, I just need to go walk with you guys down part of the downtown strip for a little bit, and
Right.
then I just need that little itch scratch. I got my little community time, and now I got to go be with my baby.
Yeah, and that's a good balance,
Oh yeah.
And that's something that I'm seeking in my life. So I know that I want to show up in that way.
Oh baby. I
Okay.
think our small guy's feeling it.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being a part of
Thank you. This
this.
was great. Yeah, I'm
I'm
glad.
glad.
I'm glad we did it. Yeah.
Go look up the Every Daisies on Instagram, on Facebook, and all the places. Go get into Rose's Swirl. Go figure out like if there's a class that you're ready to go be a part of, or even just getting to experience her art and her paintings is like a really cool space.
Thank you. And I will say, I am one of those people, you can message me if you have questions. I will get back to you as my energy allows. But I am open. So if you have anxieties or questions about a class, send me a message, shoot me a voice memo if you'd like, because I also like those. I respect those energy boundaries on that, and I will get back to you as I am able to.
Hey. And then over here in this corner of the world, I am pulling back a slight bit from doing solo brick and mortar experience. There is a new location that I'm going to be able to share with you guys in a more loud, very visually vivid way pretty soon. The thing that's going to be the most accessible for me right now that I've been putting so much energy back into is All Access Magic Pass. It has literally everything I've ever digitally created. So whether that be the printables of all of the coloring books, prints, card packs, holiday, you could get all of your gifts done in one go. All education courses, all spiritual resources, whether that be readings, guided meditations. It's just a lot for only 22 a month.
And that's a really good deal because I actually have access to this, and it's really nice because it's not in a way that you have to feel like overwhelmed by accessing it. You can go in like piece by piece. Like she's not looking at there like, oh my gosh, she hasn't completed this. No, like this is
No,
like you anytime. Go look. Oh my gosh, I needed to do a vision board. Oh my gosh, I need a reading right now. Oh my gosh, I need a meditation right now. And just pop in as you need to. I call it like ADD functioning.
it's really fun. And so please go explore that. It's a corner of the world where I can put all my energy while really focusing on Jasper a lot more right now, which is what my priorities have been shifting into in this breath and season of life. But I'm going to send you guys farewells, good days. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Come back to the Repaint Reality Manifestation Podcast.